And, we don't always have the words in the book or whatever it is. I love, though, that Chris leads us through it. So he tells us what the next phrase is going to be. And it just makes it easy to do. Thank you. Good morning, every day.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I heard that. Interesting times. You know the famous quote by the still anonymous, and I think for good reason, Chinaman, who said, "May you live in interesting times." These are interesting times. And it is an opportunity for us to recognize, it's an invitation, really, for us to recognize that we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Yes.
Because where does change begin?
With us.
With us.
With us. And it begins with our thoughts about what's possible. What's possible in our own lives and what's possible for life around us. But life around us is going to stay exactly the same if we don't do anything to change the way we think about our own life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there are a lot of people right now who are feeling out of sorts, helpless, hopeless. Kind of like, what's the point of putting any energy into changing my life, because life around me is going to stay the same. Well, what makes you think so? It's interesting. If we were doing a workshop today, instead of me just standing here having a conversation with you, we would have the time to look back upon our lives and come up with specifics about moments in our lives when we changed our mind and things changed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we're all sitting here and we have, 25 minutes to think about it, I could send you off onto that journey and not say another word. But the opportunities exist every second, every moment. Because when are we new? Right. Do we remember? No. Well, good. We have agreement on two things. We're new every day, and we don't remember. God darn it. It's every day and we don't remember? What I know about that is that we are not taking advantage of the opportunity that is on offer every second of every day to remember. To remember that we can make a different choice. To remember that we can look at the menu that seems to be everywhere around us right now of where we might place our attention. We can look at that menu and we can say, you know what? There isn't anything here that sounds very good to me. And if there's nothing here that sounds very good to me, why in the world am I still sitting here waiting to find something that sounds good to me? Why am I in the same place I was in my mind before I looked around to see what was interesting or what was nurturing or what was tickling my attention or what felt like it was lighting me up? Do you all know what I mean when I say that? What's lighting me up? So I'll tell you something there are two things that I heard about this week that really lit me up. And one of them was a interview that I heard. I didn't realize at the time that I was listening to this interview that the gentleman who was being interviewed had made his transition a few months ago when he was 95. At the time that he was doing the interview, he was 93. And his name is Clarence B. Jones, Dr. Clarence B. Jones. And he, through totally unexpected circumstances, became part of Martin Luther King's inner circle. And he was, besides being his close friend, he was his speechwriter. Now, we all might go, what? Martin Luther King had a speechwriter? Well, as Dr. Jones explained it, he would show up on Saturday and Sunday and do church, Martin Luther King. And he didn't write a word for the talks that he gave on Saturday and Sunday. But then he would be hired to speak every other day of the week, somewhere. And it was helpful to him to have at least a sense of who he was speaking to, which was one of Dr. Jones's most important contributions, was that he would do the homework on the group that Dr. King was speaking to, so that, because it was very important to Dr. King, that he actually sounded like he knew these people, and he knew what they did, and he knew what was important to them. And since he was doing this every day of the week, he didn't have the time to research every single group he was speaking to. So comes the March on Washington. And much to Dr. Jones's surprise, Dr. King asked him to give him some notes to work from. And Dr. Jones is thinking, he must be really tired for him to ask me to give him notes for this particular speech. But he did. And Dr. Jones had a remarkable memory. Dates, people's names, I mean, we're talking about with such precision. So as he goes on to tell the story, 7.5 paragraphs into his notes, Mahalia Jackson, who was sitting in the audience, calls out to Dr. King and says, "Tell them about the dream." And Dr. Jones knew what she was talking about because he'd given a speech a short time before where he had said, "I have a dream." Well, he didn't seem to hear her. So she yelled it louder. "Tell them about the dream." He put the notes to the side, as was his pattern when he was speaking extemporaneously. He grabbed a hold of the lectern with both hands. He looked into the audience of 75,000 people and said, "I have a dream."
No, he actually said, "I have a dream."
Well, I can't even begin to do Martin Luther King, so I won't even try. The point is that right there in the middle of where he was headed with his speech, he totally changed directions. And it changed history.
Yeah.
Now, you might all be sitting there going, "But wait a second, I'm just me. And I'm just living this life in Santa Fe and, kind of doing my due, and I'm just me." So what history am I possibly going to change? The history you're going to change is not about your history any more than his was. His was about changing the future, which became a change in history. But his was about changing the future, and that's what we're talking about here today. Is changing our minds to change our future. Today, and there's someone in the audience today that will recognize what I'm about to say. Today is the seeding of tomorrow. And we get to choose what we plant. I mean, it is totally, you can argue with me all day long, but it is totally in our hands. It is totally in our brain. And even though I know that I often have lots of things to say that don't sound so positive about our brain, it's just because our brain operates on what it knows, on what's familiar. And it's our job to help it step into a broader vista where other possibilities might be considered. Other possibilities might be welcomed by us rather than expecting the same old crap. I cleaned it up. And just feeling stuck with it. Just feeling like here we are in the middle of this mess. What mess?
Right.
We're looking at somebody else's mess. And we're taking ownership of it. I'm just going to avoid any direct questions about other people's mess, regardless of who the other people are. Doesn't matter who the other people are. If their mess is messing with our life, then it's time for us to decide. We are the ones we've been waiting for. It's time for us to decide whether or not their mess belongs in our life.
Exactly.
Amen.
Because if we don't want their mess in our life, if we don't want their behavior choices in our life, if we don't want their ideas about how things should be to be messing with our happiness and our peace of mind. And for those of you in the room who think I'm only talking politics, you're wrong. I'm talking family, I'm talking friends, I'm talking people in our lives who think, because we think, that their mess should be our mess. Isn't that silly? You know, when we were kids, we didn't let anybody else's mess become our mess. Because then we would be blamed for having a mess. It was really simple. We didn't want anybody's mess to be our mess. What happened? Where did we get confused about where someone else's lane ends and ours begins? Because that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Now, when we're in a situation where someone else's behavior or choices is impacting our life negatively, do we, and this is not a rhetorical question, do we have to tolerate it?
No.
Are you sure? All 5 of you.
I'm sure.
But then what? If we don't have to tolerate someone else's intolerable behavior, if we don't have to tolerate I have a client who, I'm not even kidding, is literally tormented by the behavior of one of her children. Now, I don't mean that the child does anything to her. The thing is, the child has withdrawn from her life. And she's tormented by that because her belief is that that's not what children do. That families stay close, that children are respectful, that they hold their parents, at least in some modicum. Do y'all know what a modicum is? It's about that much. Of respect. They value their parents in their lives. But that's not what's going on here. So, who's suffering?
She is.
Oh, you guys are so smart. So what's going on? For being as smart as you all are, what's going on?
She's creating her own suffering
Because
because she has expectations that are not being met.
she's creating her own suffering because she has expectations that are not being met. Now, did any of us grow up with parents that had expectations? Of course we did. At least most of us did. Whether they were good or bad, they were an expectation. Were they ever negotiated with us?
Not usually.
No. Did it seem to occur ever in our lives where there was a time when our own way of viewing our life was also held in respect? For some of us, yes, I know that. But not all of us. So what? So what? We can go over and over and over and over whatever disappointment, trauma, rejection, negligence, whatever we want to go over and over. And we will be going over and over it until our last breath. Good for us. Why?
Exactly.
Here we are in this now moment with every opportunity to start from scratch
Amen.
and do life the way we believe it should be done. So why are we so devoted to going over and over and over all of the stuff that's in our little red wagon that we haul around with us from the past? Why are we so fascinated with all this stuff? I know some of it is precious. I don't know why, but some of it is precious. Is it more precious than how we want our life to be going forward?
No.
Well, then stop it.
Darn right. Stop it.
Stop it. It's not getting us anywhere.
No.
We take a couple steps and then we go, oh, wait a minute. Let's see. I haven't looked at that in a while. Let me move this stuff out of the way and let me take a good look at that. Taking a good look at that is only going to tell you about that.
Right.
And you are not the person now who had the experience. So you're looking at it, you're hearing about it, you're talking about it, you're thinking about it, you're fascinated by it with a totally different frame of mind.
Yeah.
Stop it. There is no time like the present to realize that we are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are the only ones who can change our lives for the better.
Yep.
Other people can contribute, but there are rules about contributing. And that is that their contribution has to feel like a contribution. It has to feel like support. It has to feel like love. It has to feel like respect. It has to feel like regard. It has to feel like we are seen and heard. And if that's not what's happening, no matter how long the 2 or 5 or 10 of you have strolled down this road together, each of you with your own little red wagon, it is time to get into your lane and leave the red wagon behind.
Amen.
Oh, but you like your red wagon? Okay. You can find a place to empty it out so that everything will be safe and sound. And then you can still pull your red wagon everywhere, just in case there's something that you may want to put into it along the way. We all have a choice.
Yeah.
Every single breath, we have a choice.